What's up, YouTube? Sean the Average Angler, and I have been up since 2:30. So I'm a little tired, woke up, work stuff on the mind, couldn't sleep, you know. All right, we're still in the fall pattern. We've talked about square billing, chatterbaits, the LVs, rattle baits. Then we got into jigs. As things progress a little more so we can flip them. We can fish them offshore, we can fish them on shallow rock piles, but mostly hard cover. Anyway, that was the last video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. This video is going to kind of cover an alternative to that. Not necessarily as exciting to a lot of people until you fished them and had success on them, and then we're all try and stay quiet about it because it's very effective. But there are some big names out there that have been very, very high on these in the past. They're still awesome. And actually, I incorporate this a lot throughout the year for various things. Bed fishing. In the spring when I can't see them, I have another different rig that I like to use for it. But anyway, it's fall. We're coming into fall. So we're going to cover some alternatives here. One is going to be shallow, flipping and pitching. We're going to be flipping and pitching to wood, tules, grass, hard cover. Okay, could be dock pilings, could be rock piles, that kind of stuff. But this is shallow. Okay, so first of all, the rod I'm going to use for that is my iRod Corcus 764C. Okay, that is a heavy, not overdone. Okay, it's not a punch rod. It's a flipping and pitching rod. Plenty of power. Doesn't wear you out working with it all day. The 764, as you're going to come to find out, is one of my favorites. The difference with the Corcus, not quite as parabolic, little faster tip than the 764 iRod Gen 3, which also happens to be one of my favorites. But anyway, what is the bait we're talking about today? All right, we are talking about a good old tube, okay? This is one of my favorites. This tube is a Reaction Innovations Boom Boom tube. As you can see, it's actually a pretty good size profile. What do I have here I can compare it to? Well, here's an average size frog, right? That's a Spro kicking frog. So you can see the tube's pretty good size. This is a 5/0 BKK hook in there, okay? You can use a 5, you can use a 4, hook of your brand. This is a BKK. I typically use BKK in Gamakatsu in the EWG department. I use some owners for some other things. Anyway, not hook loyal, okay? All right, 2 ways I'm going to fish this as far as the weight goes, so let's get that out of the way right now. If I am flipping into cover, tules, grass, wood, I am going to peg the weight. I will leave a little bit of gap, okay, so that the weight can just move around. About a 1/2 inch. I don't want it to be enough to catch on things, but I want it to be enough so that the tube will swing around some. This is very much like a jig, okay? The difference is not everybody's throwing a tube like as many people throwing a jig or a creature bait. Now, the tube was successful really partially because of that. I believe anyway, it's really theory, but the tube, Denny Brauer won a big tournament back in the day. That's why he said he was using it, because everyone was throwing a jig. He threw a tube. Robert Lee won, I don't know how many tournaments, every Bassmaster event that he fished, 4 of them on the California Delta. A lot of that came on a tube and a robo zipper worm, but the tube was key for his big fish bites. Those were also spring events, if I remember right. All right, so the outfit, 18 to 20 pound Sunline fluorocarbon is what I'm using. The reel is a Shimano Bantam. It is a Daiwa Tatula SV 7.3 to 1. Now, an alternate way you can rig it, and I like messing around with things to get things to fall a little differently, all right? Now, you can do a stupid tube, if you guys are familiar with that. I don't want to take credit for it. I watched it on other people's videos. Really cool rig. That gives it a different fall. And this is another one that I do on a weighted beast hook, all right? It's just gonna fall different than having a nose weight. So this is pegged, essentially. It's not moving. And we'll make this bait glide around a little bit more because the weight's a little bit more centered to the body. This is just an alternate, okay? An alternative way to present it. Now, the other one that I like in the springtime, and I'll tell you, and it could be very well in the fall also, is to throw the flashy swimmer, the one with the blade on it, okay? Just, again, it's a different look. All right, going to the offshore stuff. Deeper rock piles, ledges, anywhere where you're spotting fish that you're throwing the jig, okay? Same type of deal. The difference is I'm going to throw the bait without pegging the weight, and I would experiment between using a bead, you know, the old brass, tried to balance it there, the old brass and glass type setup, right? Now, I do want to say, if you're using a tungsten weight, do not use glass. When you set the hook, it will shatter, okay? So you can use a brass weight, you can use a lead weight if you want to use a bead and shake it a bit to get it clacking. Sometimes that's what it takes to attract a little extra attention. And this setup, I'm going to use a little bit different rod. The iRod 754 Air. Whoops, I grabbed the 775. All right. 775 is a little heavier flipping rod. Know that I meant the 754, okay? So there's several ways to fish this bait offshore, and that's really one of the cool things about it is there's so many things you can do with it, and we get to mess around to find out how the fish want the bait. Now, number one is to work it like a jig and just drag it. Number two, call it stroking a jig, stroking a tube, okay? Similar type experience. Rip it up off the bottom, let it fall down. Well, with that weight not pegged, you are going to get a little separation. So once the weight settles, the tube, as it's falling, should change speed when that weight settles. Sometimes that's a trigger. Again, we're trying to find something to trigger the fish. Now, if they're all aggressive and all that, they're going to eat it. If they're not aggressive and we need to trigger them, we need to focus on what we're doing. Again, focus is so important in fishing that I think is one of the most overlooked things there is. So focus on what you're doing and try different retrieves until you do get them to bite. Now, one more that I like to do is the tube jig head inside a tube. Okay, it's best to lube them up. I just ripped that tube, not a big deal. But there's the head, okay? This is an open hook presentation. If you get the EWG, go search stupid tube, watch someone's stupid tube rigging, okay? It's using this type of head in the tube, but weedless setup, rig, okay? But I can take this same rig in the boom boom tube, and I don't even know if these are still made, but I can take this same rig and put it in the boom boom tube. So this is a pretty big profile. This one was a little smaller. Then there's obviously smaller ones. There's a lot of different brands. Berkeley has some tubes. Dry Creek is this one. Strike King has the coffee tube, which was also a tournament winner, by the way. That's a little closer to this size. So this is a bulky presentation for largemouth. I mean, anything will eat it. largemouth spots and smallmouth. But particularly in my area, I like to focus on largemouth with it. All right, this same way, except the fall is going to be more of a spiral, okay? It's one of my favorite ways to fish a tube in the wintertime because the hookup ratio with that exposed hook is really, really good. All right, folks, I will tell you this. The tube is great for fishing in cover because it's slender and it comes through things easily. Jig is a little bit bulkier. The tube's nice and slender. My favorite place to fish a tube is wood. Doesn't mean they're not in other places and they won't work in other places. It's just a tube is phenomenal in wood. If the jig bite's on and everybody's throwing a jig on your body of water, get out there and throw a tube. And this is one last thing, because this is what I wanted to say that I couldn't remember what I wanted to say, is that tubes are phenomenal on tidal water and river systems, okay? I don't know why. I mean, I've had phenomenal days on Clear Lake with them as well, which is a natural impoundment, natural lake. So, like I said, it works everywhere. It's kind of a forgotten bait. The guys that are doing it, because there's plenty of guys doing it. They're just not talking about it. And a lot of times, if I'm throwing a tube and I'm catching them on the tube and I'm at a tournament or something, and someone says, how are you catching them? I say a jig, okay? Because it's sort of a jig. It's a jig mimicking bait, but it's also a bait fish mimicking bait, depending on the color, how you rig it to make it fall, okay? Get out and fish tube. Give them a try. They're not expensive to fish, and they can put some big fish in the boat. Sean the Average Angler, thanks for watching the channel. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.